We're back in our old time slot and a familiar guest, as it's all about Alex again, but he's here to talk Raiders and Bucs matchups this time. All that on the home of the Chiefs.
Welcome, Chiefs Kingdom. Thanks for tuning in to this Red Kingdom media production, bringing you raw, authentic Chiefs coverage. Make sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date on your team. Now sit back and enjoy the show.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Home of the Chiefs podcast, where the Chiefs are our home. We are your hosts, Clinton and Shannon. And as I stated in the intro, we have a familiar guest to our show, someone we've talked to within the past calendar year, actually. But it went so well, we had to bring him on again. It's our buddy Alex. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I am doing good. Thank you guys for having me again. Definitely not the spot that I probably would have predicted we'd be in, thankfully, last time I was on the show. But it's been a pleasant change of pace how the last couple of years have seemed to have gone for the Chiefs, especially starting off.
That's right.
Yeah.
Had a lot of things go wrong for the Chiefs this season so far. But if we're going off of just the record books, the Chiefs are atop the NFL as they left off the last time we chatted. So that definitely makes it a perfect transition to get all about Alex again. So a lot of these, may sound familiar to those who are listening to us during our final drive thing, which obviously was kind of a precursor to what this show is becoming. And later on in the show, we'll be plugging to get more guests like yourselves or anybody else on the show too. But, we just want to see if you can remember some of the stuff you said before or how much your opinion has changed over the last year or so. So our very first question for you, which probably has not changed, is how long have you been a dedicated Chiefs fan?
For life. Definitely hasn't changed. It's not going to change until the Chiefs decide to move out of the way, which maybe we can get into that at some point, talking about the potential move for stadium location. But until that happens, I'm a Chiefs fan. Nothing's going to change that.
Well, the loyalty was never in question.
Yeah.
And all of us have that same mentality.
Mm-hmm.
But I just mean what's your lineage? Like, when can you be traced back to, and who do you branch off from?
1985 is when it started. That's when my grandpa got the season tickets originally, and then ever since then it's been in the care of my mom and in the care of us. It just, so we're trying to keep those in the family, you know what I mean, and keep kind of passing that down as long as they'll let us keep transferring who the tickets are in the care of. We'll keep that up. So 1985 is when we officially started to be, or I guess officially became full-time season ticket members.
I see.
That's
Okay.
so cool.
Yeah, we're the first of our family to start it. So
Yeah, hopefully we keep that tradition going.
Yeah.
It's really, really neat.
or be able to expand on it and get patches of tickets for other sections.
Yeah.
To dip our toes in other areas, or
Take
somebody
over.
else have our spot. Yeah, that'd be very interesting.
Yeah.
All
Especially
right.
with how good the Chiefs are doing, right? I mean, when we first started going to games, oh my gosh. When we had Matt Castle at the helm was probably when I first really started paying attention to football. And there was truly a point where I never thought we were going to win a Super Bowl, let alone, what are we up to now? 3? Well, I guess 4, four
Right.
total.
Yeah,
3 recent.
Three. Yeah,
Three
three.
recently.
Yeah, 3 or 4. This
Three that
something.
we are alive for.
That's right.
It's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have if you're losing count of the Super Bowls that your team has won. I'm okay having that problem.
Right. Now
Yeah.
you can sound like old school New England fans where we're only caring about the next Super Bowl, the one we're trying to win this season.
Yes.
Exactly. 3-peat, baby.
That's
Yeah,
right.
It's going to happen.
They're on a good trajectory for it right now.
Yeah.
They can have a lot of stuff, not swing in their favor, but they've been able to kind of beat the odds time and time again. So when it comes to a game day, remind the people what do you like to do during that 24-hour period where you're leading up to the game is happening, and you're processing the game. And since you are a fellow Arrowhead attendee like ourselves, talk about a home versus away experience.
So the away games, I've unfortunately not been able to make it to an away game, although I'd love to. Like, I'd love to go to a Denver game. I think Mile High Stadium's one of the coolest stadiums. Same with Lambeau Field, the Packers Stadium. If I was ever given a chance to go there, I'd for sure want to check out Lambeau. But so the home games, at least, we're definitely not as crazy as the diehard fans that get there the night before or hours before the gate opens. It's a little too far for us. And honestly, even recently, we've kind of realized that, cooking all your food at the tailgate gets a little tedious, especially when it's like -5 degrees, sleet, snow, all of that. So our game day usually starts. We make it a point to meet about 5 hours before the fireworks go, or not 5 hours before the fireworks, 5 hours before kickoff. I believe the gates open around then. So usually we try to get in there an hour after that, right after that rush, where we can just sneak right in. And, what's the parking lot? There's a new parking lot that we found that is the move for tailgating. I believe it's lot L. It's one of the outer lots. And you have to go up through the tunnel and over the little bridge above the entrance to get through it. But once you get through there, you're like 100 yards away from the stadium. And you can park out there where they're not going to be policing how far you are over the lines, anything like that. So, I mean, we love it out there. We start parking in the grass, taking up 3 spots. It doesn't matter. So our game day usually starts that way. We'll bring something we cooked at home, throw it on a little stove, heat it up, and then we just hang out there and get ready for the game, listen to the pregame broadcast and all that good stuff. Sometimes we walk around. Recently, I actually went through and checked out that museum that they have there. All these years that it's been there, I've never seen it until I forget the last game we were at. But that's something I would highly recommend anybody that visits the stadium goes and checks out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, we can laugh. We can laugh about Lot L because that's
Is that the one I'm thinking of? Is that the right one? That far one?
That absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That's the rounded one.
Oh yeah.
The
one.
one
go through the tunnel.
The one where if you don't get there within that, I'm gonna say sub 90-minute rush between when the gates actually open, not officially on the email or whatever, but when they actually do, an hour and a half later, everything in normal red parking is full. So
yeah, they direct you to L. So
yeah,
that's the one to go to. Honestly.
We only sneak up front if we're taking advantage of a handicap tag. Don't tell anybody that because we're not taking advantage. Okay. It's a legitimate handicap tag. But if it gets us 50 feet from our entrance and then another 100 feet to our seats, I'm going to take it.
And see, Lot L for us, that's the parking lot where, it's a Thursday night game or the most recent Monday night game, and you can't quite leave at the right time to get there. Mm-hmm. So you're trying to get there early. You think like, oh, if I get there, that 90 minutes or 2 hours, I'm going to get a chance to maybe park somewhere where I don't have to walk through that tunnel and 15 plus minutes to however far back your car is. But no such luck. So
there's so many people that park there.
Gotta convince the workplace that we gotta leave early. You don't understand the grind it takes to get there at the right time and to settle into a spot that you feel like you can get in and you're out.
Yeah.
That's like all of us. That's how we all think of our parking at Arrowhead. Like,
it's
what's
like,
our
I
escape
don't
route?
want to be around like the people that have to drive home when they're tipsy,
Oh, yeah.
So I want to get out of there now. I want to know where to get out.
As long as we're winning, we'll leave early sometimes, like a couple minutes before the fourth. I've been stuck in that line getting out too many times. And like you said, especially on a work night, a school night, nope, I'm not staying there for an extra 3 hours.
On a post-game night where I got to record and set up a bunch of stuff right after, as soon as I get home. Yeah, I will not be ashamed to say we'll leave early enough to.
You guys could get one of those conversion vans or one of those little schoolies and start doing the podcast live from Arrowhead right after the game in the parking lot.
No. That'd be so
until
cool.
the attendees kick us out.
You got probably a while until they start doing that, though. It'd be one thing if you were in there, because did you guys know they stopped letting people hang out there and tailgate during the game? They'll come through it. That's crazy to me.
Yeah,
They probably had too much.
I did heard that, and they're also trying to, like you said, enforce some line restrictions and the additional parking space taken up and stuff like that, trying to make it cleaned up. But you just got to be careful with that stuff and make sure not to, mess with the tailgaters and piss them off.
Don't cross the line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Figuratively and literally.
Yeah.
So that you haven't been able to go to the away stadium, and neither have us. But what's your experience like if it's a away game and you're just watching the game at home? How do you adjust your routines up? So.
Well, having children makes that a little difficult, but I am slowly and surely converting them to Chiefs fans. My youngest will run around on game day. As soon as he sees a Chiefs logo anywhere, he'll start doing the chop. It's the most adorable thing ever, because he does it now where he's actually singing it correctly and doing it like the right way. So it's adorable. So, we get them prepared. Usually we do something easy, like we'll just cook up some rotel and some smokies or something. Just that's how I kind of like, if I can't be at Arrowhead for the game, I want to be as relaxed as possible. And the only consistent thing is every time I wear this hoodie and my lucky jersey, and I'll gauge it sometimes too. Like if it's too hot out, I'll be sitting there with just the jersey on, but we'll start doing poorly. I have to go throw that hoodie on and just stick it out. That's been pretty bad with this October being up into the mid 80s at times.
Yeah.
But, that's really kind of how we enjoy it, is we just chill, watch it with the family. Sometimes we'll go over to a family member's house. Like my mom, obviously, is a big Chiefs fan, so we either go over there, go over to my mother-in-law's house and watch it with the family and just enjoy it,
Yeah, and I think most fans have to be a little stitious. It's not super, just a little bit.
Just a little stitious.
If something is not working, change it up a little bit. If you're doing something over and over again, it worked, maybe you'll continue to do it.
Yeah.
Not the Office quote.
Yeah. I mean, I've been pretty consistent myself. My Chiefs hoodie has been worn just about every single day, all throughout the day.
Yeah.
Where I'm at is usually cold, too much cold for my liking. So even today, it's like 80 degrees outside. Very fast wind gusts trying to blow every car and building over.
Oh, it's been crazy.
Yeah, weird weather.
So it'll be interesting to see what the weather's like for Monday as we approach, whether or not we have any tornadoes like were showing up on the radars here recently.
Yeah.
I believe it's supposed to be a chance of rain on Monday, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't checked the weather report, but I know it's kind of storms. Other than Halloween, we don't have any storms, thankfully. But after that, it could be a wet one at Arrowhead.
Yeah, maybe things will be on our side and they'll clear up a little bit. But
I need some rain boots, honestly.
Yeah, we'll have to tough it out. We're
well, what was that one historic game back in like 95 or something like that, when it was flooding so bad in the stadium the water was cascading down the stairs? I can't remember what game specifically it was, but it was around this time, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, if you're gonna put me on the spot like that and describe that, I'm gonna say that's like a late 70s Tampa Bay versus Chiefs. The historian this will have to go look it up.
It was in the 90s for sure, because oh Jesus, I'm gonna get grilled by Chiefs fans for this. I can't remember our famous defensive end's name. Derek Thomas. There's like the famous picture of him in the rain on his knees in the muddy field. It's from that game. I'm pretty sure it was 95.
Okay.
And I know my mom was actually at that game. She had friends and family that were using the ticket. She was up in a suite and came down from the suite after the rain had stopped, when everybody looked like a drowned rat and the water was still cascading down. She almost got chased out of there. So hopefully it doesn't get that wet for you guys there. I unfortunately won't be there Monday night, but I'll be nice and dry at home watching.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you can send your regards to us then. We'll celebrate.
We'll be out with brave in the weather.
I'll look for you guys on TV for sure.
Oh yeah, don't
It's so
bother.
hard. Yeah,
I mean,
it's so hard to
you
find
you
it.
would know, but you have a little better vantage point that from
Yeah.
our perspective, you ain't getting captured unless you're like toughing it out as the only ones in your section.
Unless we
you're
like
not getting-
forced our way down to the front, we would never get on TV. Honestly, probably.
Nah. All right, we're going off the rails here. So we'll go on. So you talk to your family a lot. So who is the number one individual in your life you think of the most when it comes to the Chiefs, bar none?
You know, it would probably have to be my mom, but it's also a nice reminder of my grandmother. She passed away a few years back, and that was always something that if there was anybody that's as big of a Chiefs fan as my mom and I, it's definitely my grandmother. She was always at the game. She always watched the game. She was kind of a football nerd like myself, so she would know not only the Chiefs stats, but kind of like how the whole NFL is doing. So it was always interesting to me growing up, being able to talk to someone who is significantly older than me that doesn't really, you wouldn't expect them to be up to date with all the NFL players and everything, but she was. So, my mom and my grandma were they're the two people I think of first when I think of the Chiefs for sure.
Love it. And
Yeah.
not a dad or not a male figure, it's a female figure. So
That's
My dad
Women.
actually, funny enough, he can't stand football. I mean, he watches because they're good now, but no, he has never been a football fan, doesn't like the crowds at the games, all that stuff.
So this goes out to all the people that will go on our social media channels and say that, all women, or Shannon in particular, is only a fan of the Chiefs because Taylor Swift joined in.
Yeah, that is very cool.
Football existed long before that, and
I
if
need
and
to
when.
I need to get my mom to find that picture of me when I was like 2 or 3 years old and post it on my Instagram because I was in like a Chiefs cheerleader uniform.
Yeah, it's
I've
like
been a Chiefs fan.
early 2000s Chiefs. What did I have to be excited about?
I'll find and send you guys the picture. I've got like a similar picture of me in a little Chiefs onesie when I was like 1 or 2 years old that my parents took with like the whole little JCPenney football background. That'd be a funny one just to prove the fandom is as old as we say it is, right?
Yeah, no kidding. Just like, blast from the past. Like, look, we weren't, yanking your chain. Okay, time to get nerdy about this. I'm asking you to bring back a past Chiefs player on this roster. Who do you want?
I think it's got to be Tyreek Hill, especially right now. DeAndre Hopkins was a great addition. I mean, his first play as a Chief was a third down conversion, but we need somebody right now that's just an explosive guarantee. The Chiefs defense is playing lights out, like some of the best football that we've ever seen them play, maybe the best defensive squad that Spagnuolo has had. We have to have an offense to complement that, or we're just not going to make it. Our offense is so foot off the gas, sometimes on the gas, can't figure it out. I mean, even with the injuries, we've still just haven't really seemed to be able to figure out, with Xavier Worthy being the fastest man in the NFL, we should have some sort of deep threat. Now, with that, I do think D-Hop's going to fix that, but not to get into that too much, Tyreek Hill, I think, is the one player that I would want back where we sit right now.
All right. I mean, all the rumors say that we're definitely trying and totally going to get him back. But, like, if you're talking like, oh, you want him in his prime state when he was already, that terrifying deep threat, along with who we still have, that could very much be ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
The true element of speed.
Oh, yeah.
Having him be that like addition, that would be insane.
Yeah. So we're gonna keep settling for somebody else because.
Now, I don't want to hear any DeAndre Hopkins blasphemy from anyone, because the amount of people that went with the whole, oh, he's washed, he's a bum, blah blah blah. He is the most consistent receiver the NFL has maybe ever seen, as far as how many, like, he doesn't drop the ball. I don't know the exact stats off the top of my head, but it's insane. And then the second argument was Randy Moss washed when he went back to the Patriots? No. Was Gronk washed, retired, and injured when he went back to the Buccaneers? Obviously not. Was Kareem Hunt washed when we went to get him back this year? All of it is a no. Kareem Hunt is averaging 5 yards a carry right now, averaging that just when he's been back with the Chiefs for 2 weeks. I don't believe in all that. I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to help us immensely. If for nothing else, even if he's not the same deep threat, getting somebody off of Kelsey, which we saw as Kelsey had a 90-yard game, 90-yard game. I think was averaging 9 yards, 10 catches. I don't remember if he had a touchdown. He had a touchdown, yeah. That
His first
that
touchdown.
zinger, yeah. God, that was such a pretty pass too. I didn't think that was getting past the defenders. But, with someone like that, I'm sorry, I just wanted to end the DeAndre Hopkins hate because there's been way too much of it, even from Chiefs fans up until, I haven't checked too much lately, but up until that last game, it was bizarre how many people were upset by that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not slandering him. I think a lot of people are maybe having some high expectations on him and thinking he might be the, number one type receiver of old. But I think you have to look at his age and his recent injury history and take things in perspective. I think he will still be, arguably the second or third target on any given play. But, doesn't necessarily mean he's going to ball out stat wise. But to be fair, most of the Chiefs in general aren't really balling out stat wise in any regard. And the Chiefs are dominant nonetheless. So they're very content on being able to spread the carries, the touches, the receptions, the everything. It is truly a unit. And I think that's why they're like as special and as dominant as they are right now.
Yeah.
All right. So my last question for you that has to be with just the Chiefs, and then we'll move on to our topics related to our game takeaways. Who is your favorite current day Chief, and who is your favorite all-time Chief?
McDuffie's honestly starting to be one of my favorites, but I think it'd probably be Chris Jones. I just love his energy. He's so funny. He's just like always positive, always hilarious, a dominant defensive end. Yeah, so I'd say Chris Jones is probably my favorite current Chief. Favorite all time. I wish I could remember what I said in our last podcast. That way it would at least look like I'm not jumping to another one. But favorite all time, it might have to actually be Tony Gonzalez. I'm almost 100% certain that's not what I said the first time. But now that I think of it, like him slam dunking on the field goal after every touchdown, that's like a specific core memory I remember from seeing some of my first football games with my mom and my grandmother. So we'll go Tony Gonzalez. Final answer.
That's a very respectable answer.
Yeah.
Especially this season, the Chiefs are very reliant on their tight ends, and not just Travis Kelce. Noah Gray got his little extension prior to the season kicking off, and he's really making the most out of it. Has like arguably the most catches per target in all the NFL. So
he's doing great.
If you want to be a good player in this league and you're a tight end, if you can try to find your way into Kansas City, you might have some good things happen to you. Not guaranteed, but they usually will find a way to use you and use you properly. So thank you for kind of opening up about your fandom experience and, what you've, experienced and what you kind of think and feel about the games. Our kind of last follow-up thing before we finish, how did you kind of get into the media sector and doing like social media and your podcast and some other stuff? Kind of plug what's going on and your kind of journey into it.
Yeah, so how I got into it is kind of I don't know, it's kind of just a patchwork of dumb luck a little bit. So, obviously we know Keaton, our mutual friend. He and I, a few years ago, had started Border Fuel, and that moved to Stadium Rant. And what that was basically how it started was we were only, should I say Keaton, and then we're only covering the border rivalry between KU and MU. It was all college sports focused, and then they kind of got old with that. There wasn't much of an unsaturated market for that. So that's when we kicked off into having written articles, for all 32 NFL teams, which was a pretty big undertaking. We ultimately ended up having to sell off that because it just wasn't doing what it was needing for us. And that's when we started KC Sports Company. And as you know, and, we tried that for a little bit, but recently I've kind of got back to my roots of just doing one podcast. I actually just changed the name of it. So for everybody, it's For Your Situational Awareness is the name of the podcast. It's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, I'm working on getting it up on YouTube. I'm just having a little issues with the video side of things, trying to get that squared away, especially being like a mostly one-man podcast. It's very hard to sit there and talk to yourself when it's just you. But, you know, so yeah, I've really been focusing on that kind of thing, especially nowadays where I'm just, I'm a little bit of a skeptic when it comes to most news sources, no matter what side of the aisle you are on. And I'm very much a centrist. Like, I believe in everybody just doing what they would like to do rather than imposing my beliefs on other people. So trying to focus on that and bring in conversations about that, hunting, fitness, mental health, sports, obviously, you know, being a big Chiefs fan, I've been trying to figure out how to tie that into there. And that's kind of what led to the name change. Was I wanted something that was a little more all-encompassing, something that I didn't have to limit myself to just talking about like conspiracy theories, which is where it seemed to start going on the first time. I was like, okay, I need to like make the seem a little more legitimate at times. So yeah, that's kind of how I got started. I got thrown into it working with Keaton on some of those original startups, and you know, found out I really enjoy it. But wasn't much for the actual written side of content that we were doing. I'm much more of a get on the camera, even though I hate seeing myself filmed. Much more of I'm just much better at talking and, you know, expressing that through video.
Same here. Honestly, I share a lot of that same sentiment. I started this up shortly after that sports company ceased its operations, and kind of just went, I'll kind of figure some stuff out on my own. We had already kind of had some familiarity with some things on how they were done, and we were just kind of just, you know, put the pieces together, figure out what was missing, and just kind of get out there and start producing and making content. And we've learned a lot over, you know, the course of this full year. Made quite a lot of mistakes, made a lot of changes, and I think that's cool. Like, I've seen quite a growth just from like the last time that we talked, just from our platform. Started a Substack, which I'll plug here very soon, and like, you know, just try to expand stuff and kind of figure things out. But I'm like you, I don't necessarily like having the camera look at me while I talk. If we were just, you know, out in the parking lot talking, it'd be way more comfortable. But you know, I also do a video series where I write down catchy phrases and read them aloud too, you know. So it's kind of that strange dichotomy. You realize that maybe not game's the right word, but it does feel like a game. Like, oh, I got to give you a little bit of this. Hopefully I can maybe give you a little bit of this that I'd maybe prefer to do instead if I give you this other thing that you guys really want. So kind of adapting. But
there's
Alex,
a quote. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna, in regards to that, there's a quote I really like. I believe it was Hunter S. Thompson that said it. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's the quote is all first drafts are. And I've really tried to envision that as I do these different, you know, media broadcast companies and my own podcast and guest appearances. Just remember that, you know, when you first start doing it, it's going to suck. And the only way to get past that is to just keep doing it. And, you know, that's a testament to you guys. That's something that, you know, Red Kingdom Media is, you know, it's been awesome watching you guys grow over the last functional year. I know there was some, you know, preliminary planning out. Our original podcast was kind of a little precursor to what you guys have done now. So it's been really cool to see that, you know, grow, and certainly congratulations to you guys on that. But, you know, that's something I just try to remember is all first drafts are going to suck. I might as well just keep doing it because that's the only way it's going to get better is if I just accept that. And maybe one day all the first drafts will be something cool for fans to go back and look at. Say, oh, these guys really did start like that. I can start like that in my basement with just my phone. It's that simple. It's kind of crazy how simple it is to do a podcast or a YouTube series or whatever you want to do.
That's right, and very flattered for that. Thank you. It's very easy to start. It's very hard to, you know, make the subtle changes, adjustments, play the algorithm game a little bit, give and take. Like, it's easy to start, but if you want to grow and exceed, you have to, you know, figure some stuff out, invest some time, maybe some money into better equipment or something, and just say, hey, no, if there's a plan for this, and like incentivize that you're going to work hard and make something out of it. Like, doesn't have to be super big, but just keep giving yourself some attainable goals and just find that reason to keep moving forward. So,
Oh yeah.
But Alex, I really appreciate you kind of open up about stuff. To follow our social media platforms at Red Kingdom Media, rate us 5 stars on Spotify if you prefer your podcast audio-wise. We are on YouTube. You can like, comment, and subscribe to us on there. Give us a comment. Let us know that you enjoyed what you watched. And also, we are looking for future guests to be on the show for next week and onward. So if you'd like to answer the same type of questions that you just heard Alex answer earlier, and also get to be a sports analyst for a little bit, get to kind of dissect what you saw in the game film on the previous week and kind of give your bold predictions for what you think about the upcoming Chiefs game. But if you'd like to potentially be on an episode of the Home of the Chiefs podcast, make sure to hit up that link in the description below, and we will get back to you.
Yep.
As I teased earlier, we have a Substack, and we have 2 versions of that. We got a free version that you can subscribe, like a daily newsletter, Monday, Friday, straight to your inbox. We have a daily update that will kind of give you the basic news that happened throughout the day, the following morning. If you're not somebody who wants to be on social media all day, that's respectful of you. We got you covered. We'll get you, all cut up on things you may have missed, and that way you're not behind when you have your water cooler conversations. But we also, if you like some more in-depth analysis about the Chiefs in written form, we have a paid Substack, which at this point right now, you have 2 articles. You have a pre-game and a post-game article. The post-game article, which just dropped as we were recording this, but is out the same night that you potentially are watching this. Maybe it's the next day or morning for you when you're listening to us, either way. But if you'd like to go read Dale's most recent post-game, where he broke down the Raiders matchup as we're about to transition into shortly, go subscribe to that and, follow up on us. And last but not least, we have some merch for you guys. We have some shirts. We promoted them enough. I gave my spiel about them enough times. They're local shirts. They're made well, and it's got our branding on it. You got to let us know that you like our merch and want us to expand our options. So you got to hit up that link in the description to message me, or if you're watching this and you got transitioned over from X, all you got to do is look at my freaking display name. Just message me on there. Say, yo, I want a shirt. I'll be like, bet I got you covered. What's your size? Get the invoice started. So it'll be quick and easy. If you want a shirt, please reach out because we got the best shirts, y'all. And now we are moving on to topic number 2, which is the Chiefs ran over the Raiders. That's what I'm calling it, because that's sure what it felt like. They defeated the Raiders 27-20, which I said in my breakdown video. The score made it look like it was a super close battle, but for much of it, towards the end, the Chiefs were stretching away, and the defense just let them milk as much clock off as they wanted. But the Chiefs picked up the divisional win. So, Alex, what do you make of this game in its entirety? And who were your offensive and defensive MVPs?
I think offensive MVP has to be Travis Kelce. I think that was his biggest game, even though I don't think it was the most yards he's had, but that was the most impactful. It really highlighted the importance of DeAndre Hopkins being there to take some pressure off of him. He got a touchdown. He looked kind of like the Kelce of old, so I really hope that continues. Kelce for sure had to be my offensive MVP. Defensive, George Karlaftis was all over that. Oh my gosh, that might have been his most dominant game as well. I mean, put everything else aside, just the defensive stand that they had after that interception in the third quarter on the Kansas City 3-yard line. That's it. Who forces someone to a 4-and-out within 5 yards in that fashion? I think there was no positive play on the whole thing. 1 or 2 sacks, a -1 yard run. it's just insane. And it's a nice change of pace from watching a Chiefs team that always seems to be trying to blow out the other team just so that they won't run the score up on them, because our defense hasn't been able to stop anything. But, I mean, they held Minshew to like 206 yards, total of 33 rushing yards for the entirety of the Raiders that night. That's insane. Now, with that, I do think Gardner Minshew was sneaky good in that game, even if the stat line wasn't super impressive. He was shockingly accurate. So I've always been a Minshew fan ever since he was with the Jaguars. I think he's just a cool dude. He's got that swagger. He seems like someone that kind of, one of those people you want to get the opportunity to play in the NFL, like you're just like Fitzpatrick. Same kind of situation, in my opinion. But yeah, so back to get on topic, George Karlaftis was for sure the defensive MVP of the game to me. That game, though, other than the first drive was really the only drive that reminded me of the Chiefs of old. I think we need to keep working. I mean, obviously Hopkins only had a few days to get prepared. He's going to mesh much better. I think we're going to see that against Tampa Bay as a much improved Hopkins from the limited kind of snaps he took during the last game. But
yeah, I agree. I think my MVP, my offensive MVP, is Kareem Hunt and P. Ryan, because they both where they kind of did their jobs and they were showing up to the plate and they were kind of just showing what they could do. They had run offensive runs through the running back, so that would make them like be more in depth and in tune with what they were doing. The defensive MVP for me, I think, was Nick Bolton, just because he had 9 total tackles, and he was really like the leading one. He's growing into his role, and he's just like, I feel like, becoming who he needs to be for this team, and he's really helping out. So that was really cool to see.
Yeah, sure. Alex, I agree with you. This game, like the Chiefs offense started about like as we've kind of grown to expect them to be. And then after those scripted plays, stuff gets a little more difficult. Defenses figure us out and we stop being so consistent. Obviously, I pretty much say it every single week how I'd like to see them fix themselves. But, I've changed my expectations for them in terms of the offensive production, because this defense is so much better than they're given credit for, or in perspective of maybe 2013 and up until we started getting to Super Bowls when we were Bob Sutton led, and kind of seeing the dynamic shift from our defense then. That's incredible that we held them to less than 30 yards rushing. This Chiefs defense has gone a long way when it comes to stopping the run. It used to be our kryptonite, and now it seems like it's our greatest strength. And from how the defense has been playing and how the NFL, how defenses have kind of been the main star, so to say, the side of the ball that's dominating, the running game tends to be the area of the offense that's been working. And I'm glad to see that the offense, at least from the Chiefs' perspective, they've been able to lean on the run. And like you said, run the offense through them. And they've been able to kind of dictate the pace. Kareem Hunt getting more than 20 carries again as an old man, so to say, or at least older for a running back. It's kind of incredible to see that Andy is willing to kind of run the ball almost 50-50. Last couple of weeks had been that. Obviously, we passed a little more this game, but I like that we're trying to keep defenses guessing. And if they're built to stop one particular offense, then we just keep them guessing and run the other, and try to keep it as simple as possible. And I think we'll really succeed. So for my offensive MVP, I'm going to give it to number 15. He had the one interception that arguably wasn't his fault. Batted balls, are not something you can predict or that you can expect to happen. We didn't have the careless throws. We didn't have anything dangerous. Mahomes took off, but he wasn't totally relying on his legs to, get first downs and make plays. It was a very even mix. Multiple touchdown passes. Shout out Travis Kelce, finally getting his first touchdown of the season. Well deserved. I believe they have the third most touchdowns together, if I heard that stat correctly. But Travis Kelce is making a huge impact for the Chiefs, and he's also had records against the Raiders in terms of being all-time against them as well. So I'm glad we're continuing to build that Arrowhead West legacy, no matter where the silver and black move their team place to place. And then in terms of the defense, you shout out Nick Bolton. I guess I'll give it to his linebacking teammate, Drew Tranquil. Came up with the sack, ended up with the forced fumble recovery, and just kind of played well. Our linebackers can kind of get put in hazardous situations that don't put them in the best situations. And I think at times, they could be caught. Justin Reed, one almost shouted him out, can kind of be in that same sentiment where they can be in that right spot. But if the throw is just perfect, or if the athlete they're going against is just a little bit better than them, they get beat. And, you want to say, oh, it's on them. But like sometimes you just have to concede and let the better guy take it as a win versus your guy constantly losing. So, but honestly, I think in post game I gave it to the entire defensive line. The Chiefs had gone out and acquired Josh Uche from the New England Patriots. So to add on to their defensive line, I said it then. I'll say it now. I love when this defense plays like a unit. Like everybody isn't necessarily one particular player as the star. That's why a lot of these conversations are kind of all over the place for us, because there's always like one or two players that are like instant standout. Yeah, they definitely flashed. They were a total bell cow. They were the breadwinner of this. And then there's the other guys where maybe they did something underrated, or they flashed, once or something like that. But all of it gels where like the defense is built for a player to succeed on a play, and it could be you and your number at any time, and you just got to be ready. Like Chris Jones is the star of our team, and half the time he's getting double teamed. He's not getting the chances to get on the stat sheet as much. So you look at that and say, well, Chris Jones isn't contributing much. But if you watch every single snap, you watch how much the offenses are keying on him, then you start to shift your perspective a little bit, and you start to appreciate the effort that gets put in that doesn't necessarily get noticed on the stat sheet. So that's it for me. I'm not going to stay on my soapbox for too long about that. All that to say, I love what Spagnuolo has been doing with this unit, and it makes it more difficult to kind of pick out the stars of his defense, because, arguably some of his biggest stars don't flash. I mean, McDuffie is so good. He never gets targeted. He doesn't get chances for interceptions. He might be able to force a freak fumble or something. But, some of the Chiefs' best players rarely can get on the stat sheet. I mean, George Karlaftis, he got a sack this week. Most of the time that tends to be a struggle for him to finish. But, all this, we just hope that, as everything, sacks comes in bunches, touchdowns, receiving yards, rushing yards, everything comes in bunches. And
well, you said something during your spiel that actually made me think too about just, how the mistakes that this defense are making aren't mistakes. They only lose on plays that they're truly outplayed. Like, Justin Reed, for example, during the Raiders game. I can't remember who number 19 is on the Raiders, but he had some insane touchdown catch that, like, he caught Justin Reed's hand with the ball. I'm like, okay, you can't fault, like, Justin Reed played that as good as you can play it without causing pass interference.
Right.
And that's a nice change of pace, is that our defense is the only mistakes they're making are simply getting outplayed. There's not a lot of penalties. There's not a lot of pass interference, although there has been a couple of games where that gets a little questionable. But, like, our cornerbacks are playing so aggressive while still giving them the room to not draw a penalty. And that's why, I think even with looking back to this last game with how accurate Minshew was, but he only had 206 yards. They might have made some of these catches, but our defense is on them to where that's a moot point. It doesn't matter, and they're not shooting themselves in the foot the whole time.
Right, and I think with the recent trade the Chiefs made for another defensive end and waiting for Omenihu to jump on later in the season, I think Spags is making sure that he's got enough to get pressure with 4 so that we don't necessarily have to bring the blitz every single time. Because he will bring the blitz, but it also means that a linebacker and Trent McDuffie are blitzing and Tershawn Wharton is in pass coverage,
Yeah.
or somebody else is running with a receiver 20 yards downfield. Like that's what a defensive play is like. Like if it's done well, you don't notice that there was a player who was almost or totally wide open. If they don't get seen, that's not what gets noticed.
Yeah, exactly.
So our defense has been very disciplined. Even when they lose, they lose by that narrow margin. It's not this wide open, can't believe broken coverage type scenario. They're in it on every single play, and they've gotten lucky and been able to force plays their way a lot of times. And that's what this team has been needing to do recently.
Yeah,
especially
I can't think of it
when the offense was struggling and we were hoping the defense would kind of bridge that gap with points and turnovers and stuff like that when our ratios were out of control. Thankfully, we're starting to kind of even those out again, but obviously we're still having those turnover issues on the offensive side that we need to clear up. So, the defense can always add to our totals if they'd like to.
Have we had a defensive touchdown yet this year?
Oh boy,
I don't
put me on the spot like that.
Well, I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't think
if I'm
so.
wrong, somebody's gonna leave it in the comment. We never get comments to anything, but we'll definitely get a comment that's like,
there you go.
dummy.
If you want reactions,
it was at this time. Yeah, you just gotta ask your audience to educate you or to patronize you.
Have a hot take or be wrong, and you'll get all the feedback.
Oh, absolutely. The things we.
But I don't think we've had one. I don't think we've had like a good one of those pick sixes. I remember my favorite defensive play was Eric Berry versus the Falcons when he got a pick 2 to win it. I think that was in was that 2016?
Yes, it was.
I think, yeah. A pick 2 to win the game. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. That's such a cool play. Is there any better play than like a pick 6 or a fumble 6? Like that's got to be the most exciting play.
Yeah, that's the funnest one.
I think for me, fat guy touchdown is right up there.
I miss the old days with Dontari Poe, and we haven't done any of that. I actually wait. There was a game this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Wanye Morris, left tackle.
Yeah.
But I know we want Chris Jones in there. I remember Chris Jones was like, I don't know, maybe I'll take over that Dontari Poe spot. And
Dontari Poe had a rushing touchdown,
man.
a passing touchdown, and a receiving touchdown in the same season as a defensive lineman. That is insane.
Yeah. Andy Reid will make you famous as long as you.
Andy Reid needs to get back into that play calling. I do think that's kind of why our offense has been so hemmed up, so to speak, is because it's not Reid and Mahomes calling the plays anymore. And I don't know. I think it's got to be Andy Reid. I think you got to just supplement him with someone like maybe Alex Smith coming in as a quarterbacks coach. I forget. I'm going to get grilled for this. The current quarterbacks coach name is just slipping my mind. And he's great, but I think it's almost one of those things. It's, why can't I remember our QB's coach's name? I think if we moved him up into that offensive coordinator role and brought in someone like Alex Smith, people that are going to let Andy Reid cook instead of try to take some of that ownership, because I feel like there's almost a similar thing to what was happening on the defensive side of the ball with the enemy, where it's like that power, that fight for power a little bit that ends up ruining the team. The team only seems to work well when they accept that Andy Reid's the greatest head coach of all time and let him do what he does best, which is coach and lead and delegate and then, teach everyone up around. I forget how many coaches he's raised up essentially to be assistants and head coaches and everything else all around the league, but he's like a coach-making factory in that regard. And it's kind of weird how his coordinators never seem to piggyback off that. They always seem to fight it. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just what I think.
No, I can see your point. A lot of them have not done well once they've left us. And, offensive coordinator Matt Nagy has left us and came back. Eric Bieniemy went off on his own. He had to settle for college. And Doug Peterson, has had several jobs, and he could be on the hot seat now. So, that's just kind of the nature of it. But, you said something earlier about the offense. I think it's at this point, because we're not, towards the end of the season, towards postseason, we're just not going to see the offensive plays they have to offer. And we're just going to have to accept that, and especially with the injuries in the receiving core that we've experienced. We're just going to be very vanilla and boring. And as long as, we can do those things well, then I think we'll be able to kind of, up those expectations again once the end of the season rolls around, as we always tend to play to those higher standards when pressure is on.
Man, I was so hyped to see Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, like I said earlier in the podcast, fastest man in the NFL. That would have I really thought this was going to be the final year where we got good on both sides of the ball. And I do think we still can be, but it just was so demoralizing losing Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown. I mean, I think Brown comes back. Not next week? Is it next week?
Who's that?
Hollywood Brown, is he coming back?
No, he's like way into season.
Who am I thinking of that was supposed to only be out to
maybe Juju was coming sooner, but he was out last week.
Maybe.
He's out
Or maybe I'm just thinking back to speculation about Brown's injury to begin with. They were saying he was going to come back right after the bye week. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Possibly.
But I don't know. Regardless, it was such a kick to the shin to lose what we thought was going to be such an offensive powerhouse and see that it's not without them.
But thankfully we've got some options, and we have some time to figure some out too. And let's go ahead and transition into our final topic, which has to do with us battling the Buccaneers out there in Tampa Bay. And I feel like, Alex, this could be a team that it could be, beat 'em up territory. The Bucs were supposed to have a good defense, but they're just not gotten to those expectations. So, the Kansas City is about to host Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday Night Football at 7:15 on ESPN. What are your expectations in this non-conference showdown?
I think, injuries aside, no matter what, I think this is going to be kind of that sleeper game, our dark horse game of the season. With Baker Mayfield, ever since he went to be with the Buccaneers, he's played great. He truly looks like a starter. And yes, he's lost receivers, but even last week, I forget exactly how many. He had somewhere 356 yards, something like that, was 36 or 37 out of 50 attempts. The dude will just huck it down the field, and he's not afraid to. And, he had 2 interceptions. I'll admit I didn't watch the game necessarily, so I don't know if those interceptions were his fault or not. But, that's going to happen. I do think this could be a little bit of a dark horse game. Now, with that, I think if the defense is able to first force turnovers, which, if I'm not mistaken, there was a few fumbles in there last week as well. We know the defense can do that. If the defense is able to first force turnovers, I think the rest of their work will kind of be cut out for them. So Tampa Bay had no rushing touchdowns last week against the Falcons. They had no wide receiver that went over 100 yards. I think the closest was 89. So if we really capitalize on those injuries, I think that's the path to success. But I don't like how sneaky good Tampa Bay has kind of been this season. I do think that if there's anybody that's going to upset us, anybody that's going to take away the perfect record right now, they have the best chance to do it. Now, with that, I'll give a final score prediction of 34-20 Chiefs. But I'm still not – I don't know, man. I'm not confident in us winning it. I think we're going to. I hope we're going to. But I'm not, fully confident, and not yet at least.
Yeah, well, I think this is going to be a fight. I think it's going to come down to the defense being very good, like they have been being on the offense on the other team, and just kind of being there and being the rock, because offense, we can't always trust them, and they have made some mistakes in the past. Pat, I'm looking at you. Not throwing any shade, but you have made some mistakes, Patrick Mahomes. So it is going to be a fight, and I think the Buccaneers are going to be like they're every team that plays us this year is, like I said, is going to be like fighting their hardest to beat us. So the Raiders were fighting really hard to beat us. The Buccaneers are going to fight really hard to beat us. So we're going to have to fight 2 times harder to beat them. And it just is going to come down to who is the ball last and who is going to come up and be that like MVP type team.
I agree to you to an extent. I think, the Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield are not a team to take lightly. They are experiencing some injury concerns right now, and they're not quite at full strength. So I'm fully picking the Chiefs to win this game. I did have this, as Alex was hinting at earlier, as one of those sneaky games, but I think based on the losses that the Buccaneers are experiencing right now and kind of this resurgence the Chiefs are going through in terms of their identity and identifying the weapons on offense and the key players on defense that they like to rotate in. I think at this point, as they're figuring that out, they should be in a prime position to beat up on a Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense who's not quite living up to their expectations under a defensive coach. Defense is not the highlight of their team, so take that as you will. But I do think that this will be a battle. However, I think much like the Raiders game ended up being, and yes, I agree that every team the Chiefs face this season are a team that would just play their absolute hardest. And that's why I'm still giving them this credit. But I think the Chiefs are still going to come out on top, and the Buccaneers are going to try to make it close to the end and kind of bridge that score margin and maybe make some betting people happy or sad based on their over-under. But the Chiefs have never been ones to care about blowing a team out in a dominant fashion. I think unless your team is just frankly inadequate, you're still going to appear on the stat sheet and on the scoreboard in some way. Andy Reid won't necessarily shut you out or put up 40 points on you if he knows that he can get the win with 24 points. But I think the Chiefs are in a position where they could kind of have that mindset this game. I think they could say, 3 touchdowns will probably do it. 4 touchdowns should definitely do it.
Yeah.
And this Chiefs defense hasn't allowed 28 points in, I think, about 3 seasons worth of games at this point. So why would they do that now? Mm-hmm. But we've been riding this Chiefs defense since the end of last season, and we've still chosen them to be the spotlight for this team. It's really exciting to have that mindset back. But the good thing is that we have a dominant quarterback to pair with it. And we've said it time and time again, if the worst problem you have is your star franchise quarterback isn't necessarily playing his absolute best, but we'll figure it out in the postseason, you can kind of live with the stuff that we're experiencing right now. And, the team's identity has shifted. They realize their defense is good. They don't have to win games by 50 to 49 and put up all these points. They can sit on the ball and run for 3 yards, 4 yards a carry, and then take those 9-10 yards at a time and still hope that those deep balls over the middle to Worthy or the fade route will work out. But they're not necessarily trying to force anything. And I think as we see this end of the season kind of manifest itself, I think that's what we're going to be kind of looking back on when the season is over, is how this was the time they were identifying who their key targets are, what their expectations are, what our expectations for them are, and how we can march towards this three-peat. So that's been our show. But before I send everyone off, Alex, go ahead, let people know what's going on. Plug anything else that you'd like to plug. But after that, just want to say thank you for joining us.
Yeah, no, and thank you guys for having me. I love coming on. Feel free to invite me back if my takes aren't too crazy and my lapse of judgments and lapse of remembering exact stats don't get too much hate. But shameless plug is just at not Alex McMullen is my social on everything. I recently made an Instagram page for the newly named but old podcast. It's at FYSA_pod. For your situational awareness, if you just search that anywhere, though, it should be the first thing that comes up, and it's got my name in a pretty little graphic. Other than that, like I said earlier, I've kind of taken a step back from having my hand in way too many different buckets, so I'm just focusing on that. Besides that, like I said, thank you guys for having me.
Very cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Friend of the show, friend of the brand, as I already said earlier, but make sure to check out Alex's stuff. He's, as you can tell, he's a real down to earth, cool dude, easy to get along with, easy to talk to. So make sure to give him a follow and let him know that we sent you over. But that is all the time we have for you. If you're with us the Tuesday night, we're getting this out there. Thank you for being a dedicated watcher or listening of our program. I hope you all have a great rest of your week. Get ready for that Monday kickoff. And as always, go Chiefs!
Thanks for checking out this update straight from the heart of Chiefs Kingdom. We appreciate your passion, so please leave a like and follow us wherever you tune in from. See you next tailgate, your trusted source for all things Chiefs, Red Kingdom Media.